public.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us for our regular March 22nd council meeting at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Charlie Davidson,
Here.
George Glover.
Here.
Ben Salcetta,
Here.
Kyle Nordick,
Here.
Tom Jones,
Here.
George Capps, Brandy Bailey,
Here.
Jim Schrader.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. And Councilman Capps called me today and said he was feeling under the weather, so he wouldn't make it tonight. So we'll move on, and our invocation will be Pastor Chuck Peters, and Councilman Bailey will lead our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for the moisture, Lord. Father, we also just would take this time to lift up in prayer our President, Joe Biden, our national representatives, our governor, our state representatives. And Father, we also would lift up our mayor and the members of our city council. Father, we would ask for blessings upon them for their service. And Father, we would also ask for wisdom for decisions made tonight. Father, we would also lift up our police and our firemen and the city employees. Father, we ask for protection for all these as they fulfill their duties. And Heavenly Father, we just would thank you for the blessings in this city that you have bestowed upon us, the growth. Father, we would ask for your wisdom in tonight's decisions, Father, to continue this growth. And it is in Jesus' name we praise this. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Thank you. Okay, we'll start with approval of the agenda. I have a couple suggestions for change. Councilman Davison asked us to take item 5 off of the consent agenda, and we'll move it very last. He just wants to have a little explanation on what it is, which is understandable. So we'll make that item 18. Okay, and then we want to flip item 6 and item 8. So we want to flip item 6 and flip item 8, just so they're in the appropriate order for approval. Ben?
Yeah, I would go ahead and make a motion to approve the agenda as amended there.
All right. And Charlie?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. We'll move on to, we don't have any awards and presentations. We have public forum, and I do have a couple signed up. We'll start out with Mrs. Penny Weddle.
My name is Penny Weddle, and I live at 2100 East 53rd Street North. I'm here tonight to ask that you enforce Park City's ordinances and codes for Pratt Industries for their building at 5700 North Hydraulic. My property is to the south of their building on Hydraulic. The first issue is lighting. They agreed to have only indirect lighting, and here is a picture. I can show it to you here. I have a few.
If you want. Okay. Okay.
See that? There's one. This is another one. This is actually a video that I took. There, they have red and green flashing lights that constantly flash. The green and red lights are on either side of the loading entrance where each truck will be parked. And that's a video of that. I have this. Here's from my backyard. Shows the lighting there. There are more than 100 sources of light on or near their building just along my property line. Now, some are indirect, like they said, but a lot of them are not. And it's only gonna get worse, as there could be many trucks with their headlights shining in my dining room and living room windows. Thank you very much. I have another one too. Oh. Yeah, sorry. Okay. No, that's the next one here. It's that one. It's a video too. The second issue is noise. They have 2 boilers. I have a video of one of them running, if you can. That my daughter took that video as she was going out our back door onto the deck. That was with only one of them running. They haven't even had both of them running together yet that I know of. It is so loud, it gives me and my family headaches. It is even loud inside my house. The city ordinance is 50 decibels at night and 55 during the day, and this noise is way, way above that. If you're out in my backyard, it sounds like a 747 jet flying over my house at low altitude, and it just stays there. Please hold this company to what they agreed to and to the code and ordinances of Park City. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, I have Mary Honick.
Do you have, there's no comment?
No.
Yeah.
So does that mean that you're not gonna do anything?
No, that does not. We'll consult with staff, and Sean, our city administrator, will probably get back with you. He will get back with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Mayor and City Council, I live in Village Estates Edition. I was involved in the connectivity study that was completed several years ago for Park City. And the information I'm giving you is from the Federal Highway Administration regarding the benefit of sidewalks. Annually, around 4,500 pedestrians are killed in traffic crashes with motor vehicles in the United States. Pedestrians killed while walking along the roadway account for almost 8% of these deaths. Many of these tragedies are preventable. Providing walkways separated from the travel lanes could help to prevent up to 88% of these walking along roadway crashes. Sidewalks separated from the roadway are the preferred accommodation for pedestrians. Sidewalks provide many benefits, include safety, mobility, and healthier communities. In addition to reducing walking along roadway crashes, sidewalks reduce other pedestrian crashes. Roadways without sidewalks are more than twice as likely to have pedestrian crashes as sites with sidewalks. Many people cannot drive a car and are reliant on walking or finding other transportation. Children, older adults, and people with disabilities make up a substantial portion of this population. Providing sidewalks can increase the transportation options for these individuals. Additionally, by moving pedestrians off the travel lanes, motorist operations are improved and capacity increased. Research also shows that people will walk for recreational purposes if a facility is provided. Recreational walking is one of the easiest ways for people to get the recommended allotment of physical exercise each day. I would like to propose a sidewalk from the north entrance of the Prairie Hill Addition to connect with a sidewalk near the Senior Citizen Center on the east side of Hydraulic. This would include a painted crosswalk from the Village Estates north entrance to the east side of Hydraulic, and a change in the crosswalk signal from the west side to the east side of Hydraulic at 61st Street. Additionally, I would like to have it completed this year. I would also like to see the sidewalk extended south to 53rd in the near future. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Ben?
I do want to say Miss Mary has come several times to my events that I've had, the coffees, and I had asked her and encouraged her to come, and so thank you very much for coming this evening, and I do think that it's something that, as we talk about moving forward, is something we need to address as a council, and we've talked about this in sidewalks and allocated. I think it's something we need to address, so thank you for coming tonight.
Very good, thank you. And Curtis has signed up also, but I think he actually meant to be on an agenda item, is that correct? Mr. Zer? Yes, okay, that's what I thought. Thank you. Okay, staff reports. Sean? All right, consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Charlie?
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended, I guess I should say.
Okay. Ben?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, under new business, we have discuss and consider economic development incentive for, oh wait, I'm sorry, we switched that. My bad. We'll do item 8. Sean? Russ?
One of us. Good evening, Mayor, council members, Russ Avey, interim zoning administrator. On the planning and zoning agenda tonight, we have 2 items. The first being special use permit 2022-02, and it is a special use for general manufacturing within the C2 business district on a property located west of Hydraulic and north of 85th Street North. The property under consideration is looking to be within the near environs of NIAR, as they are a manufacturer of materials related to the aviation industry. The Planning Commission recommended approval unanimously, subject to several conditions, some of which may be questioned or have some additional comments by the applicant who is in attendance. The conditions of approval is that it permit only indoor manufacturing and no outdoor storage of materials. The development shall comply with all other regulations related to the C2 business district. In the event that the property develops all the way to the west where it abuts 2 residences, they are required to build a screening fence. The applicants are also, prior to building permits, required to be approved for a lot split. The subject property is a small portion of a large lot, Lot 1, Block 6, Bear Hill Estates, that measures about 65 acres in size. This is a much smaller portion of that larger area. The business looking to locate and develop this property has an employment of approximately a half a dozen initially and hopes to double that over the next 10 years. Their manufacturing operation is not transportation reliant. They do not ship or haul their own materials, and they see about 4 to 5 trips per week coming in and out of the site. The subject property, I mentioned the larger lots, approximately 65 acres. The subject property is approximately 5 to 6 acres. And I'll stand for any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
And as I mentioned, the applicant is here. There was also a condition that I failed to mention. The Planning Commission recommended a height limit of 1 story, and we came up with 24 feet. And the applicant may have some questions on that particular condition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And do we need to have a public hearing on this also at this point? Yes, sir.
No, sir, not a public hearing. The public hearing is held at the Planning Commission level, although I believe it may be customary to hear from the applicant if there's any questions.
Okay. All right, very good. So, council, you see the suggested motions. We can approve the special use as presented. We can deny the special use as presented with findings. We can approve the special use with modifications and/or additional conditions, or we can request additional information and defer final action. With that, I will open it. Charlie.
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. What are the hours of operation? Will this be a 24/7 operation? Is this just through Monday through Friday?
I'll have the applicant answer that.
The plan is just a 7 to 5:30 operation, so it's principally one shift. Normal hours currently are Monday through Friday. You know, it's possible we might work Saturday mornings or something, but it's not a 24/7 operation at all.
Thank you.
Brandy.
Item 15 talks about was there support or opposition to this request, and staff has not received any public input on this request. Were the residents of Bear Hill, were they notified of this, or is it far enough away that there was no requirement to notify them?
Certainly. The lots at Bear Hill Estates is over 1,000 feet from this particular tract, so they were not notified. I believe there were 7 entities notified. The two, or one of the owner of the western residential lot to the west of the subject property was in attendance and expressed a little bit of dismay that there was C2 zoning around him, and so a lot of his questions dealt with the C2 coming right up against their properties, and it was explained to him at the Planning Commission meeting that, in fact, the property is surrounded on 3 sides by C2 and the general commercial district to the south. And after discussion, there didn't seem to be opposition to the request. The staff report suggested a screening fence along the west property line in the event that development occurs all the way to the west of the subject property. In actuality, probably the west 100 feet, 80 feet to 100 feet will be a roadway going into the larger lot to the north. So we don't expect this development to abut the residential development, but we wanted to make certain that a condition is in place in case that contingency happened.
Okay, so after he heard, there was no opposition from him, the owner of that property?
That would be I would couch it that way, yes.
Okay.
I will say that there was the opportunity to file a protest petition or protest petitions within 14 days, and we have not received any protest petitions.
Okay.
Okay. Ben?
Yes, Russ had alluded to this part there about the question possibly concerning the height. Was that a concern there that was just alluded to? So I wanted to make sure as far as the height, the 24 feet, there wasn't some sort of,
We got into a little bit of discussion about wanting to limit the scale of development along 85th Street. The applicants indicated that they were not going to build anything more than a single story, and that then you turn around and try to define what a single story means. And so when you're talking about building height, the height of a building is actually measured at the midpoint of the rake of the roof. So it's not necessarily to the eave. It can actually extend taller. I believe there was discussion about a 18 to 20 foot building, and so we just included 24 feet for some flexible room. And it's my understanding that there was a question as to whether or not that could be raised to, say, 28 or 30 feet in height.
would there be any reason why it couldn't or shouldn't be raised to that height, in your opinion?
In my opinion, no. I think the single story is a little bit more important than the actual height. So we would typically regulate single story up to 35 feet. The Planning Commission picked 24.
Okay.
Staff sees no problem with raising that.
So if we were to do this, raising it up to, and you say 35 feet is generally what you,
It's generally what we would accept in, say, Wichita City County.
okay. I mean, I would be in favor of that there, as long as staff sees no issue with that. I don't see why.
Staff was neither for nor against that type
Okay.
of condition.
Yeah, without any reason to say otherwise, I would be in favor of raising that there to be able to accommodate that height.
I would ask that you allow it to go to 35. I don't think we'll go that high, but you just never know how construction goes. So
Sure.
I'd hate to get in the middle of the project and have an issue.
Yeah.
As a plan stand right now, I think 24 would be adequate, but, you know, I don't want to get caught up in something either.
No, I would, and I don't know if there's anybody else, if there's still others to speak on this, so I will defer until others speak, but I would be in favor of changing that.
Tom?
I was questioning a height too, because inside ceiling height can hinder manufacturing sometimes if you restrict it. And I'm inclined to agree with Ben that we ought to go with our standard height. And I think that consistently, I think you've already got some other buildings that are taller than that on the other side of the street. Old Coliseum and stuff.
What is the exterior building construction? What is it? Is the siding on it? Is it a metal building? Is it?
It's a metal building. There are offices that'll be on the front, on the southwest corner, with, you know, large plate glass windows that extend about 75 feet north and east. And, you know, we were going to do something decorative, you know, under the windows. I don't know if it'll be stone or brick or whatever, but we are trying to do something aesthetic around the office area. And then the rest of the building is metal.
I guess, is that, because I do feel like as our city grows, especially manufacturing or these type of businesses that are fairly close to residential or existing developed areas, that I think that is an important part, that we're not just doing metal buildings in certain areas. And I'm asking, would it be appropriate for us to add that to this?
What would you ask to be added?
Just on the front end of the building, to have like a different type of fascia that's not of a metal composition, that's more of a, like you said, a stone or brick.
For the entire front of the building?
Yes.
The building's already been ordered. And so I'm afraid that train has left the station already.
Well, not necessarily.
Well, if you want us to do it, it's left the station.
Okay. Russ, did you have anything?
I didn't. I was just going to say that there would be several options for that type of review. We could have the elevations of the building come back through to city council review if add a condition for a site plan review if that's necessary. It's difficult to kind of on the fly dictate architectural standards. Oftentimes you'll see something in the regulations which talk about a certain percentage of a metal elevation, of an elevation that is intended to be metal. And not all metal siding, of course, is created equal. We have some very wonderful architectural metal, but without knowing what has been ordered, it's really difficult to stand here and say that. Oftentimes regulations will simply provide a ratio of say 20 or 30% of a facade or an elevation needs to be of a different material. Sometimes even small architectural embellishments to break up the facade of a building oftentimes can be good enough. Sometimes if there's nothing that's really to be done with the architecture itself or the building material itself, sometimes you can break up the you know, the kind of well, monotony, I hate to say monotony, but for lack of a better term, the flatness of an elevation with landscaping.
And I do mean that also, just something so it's not just a plain metal building that's being mixed in with, obviously there's residential that's a ways away, but these folks are driving by every day. So that's what I feel like now would probably be the time for us to put that in.
Certainly, and we can work on the language of that if that's what the council wishes.
Yeah, thank you. Jim?
I was just going to address what Councilman Bailey was saying was, I know at least Bear Hill was aware of something being talked about at planning and zoning. I don't think we knew the specifics then and it wasn't appropriate, but anyway, had no feedback, no responses. I just, as a representative of our ward, right across the fence, I've not had any concerns expressed to me. So appreciate little things like the glare on the lights. I saw you agreed to that, and that's great because that comes up. And don't have any concerns about what height we make it. We're talking about a single-story structure, so seems reasonable. Discussion on the fascia of the building makes sense, but maybe ought to be something that we address an expectation of earlier in the process next time, because I recognize things have already started here. But just wanted to voice my opinion for the ward.
And it may be on their part of ordering the building, but as far as us approving the special use permit, hasn't been approved yet on our behalf, so go ahead.
Mayor and council, I feel like I need to interject. I think I understand that staff and the governing body are really interested in design standards and probably something that's on the horizon that we're going to get accomplished. And I think that's good. But doing that ad hoc in a planning matter, I think is legally inappropriate.
Okay, very good. Ben?
Yeah, so I'm, based on that there, I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to approve ordinance 1141-2022, an ordinance approving a special use to establish a general manufacturing use in the C2 Service Business District on certain property located in the city of Park City, Kansas, under the authority granted by the zoning regulations of the city, with that amended to be 35 feet in height as a maximum versus the 24.
Jim?
And just clarify, Ben, you were recommending approve as presented with that one exception?
Correct. Approve the special use with the modification and or additional conditions being the 35 versus 24, yes.
I would second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Charlie?
Yeah, just for discussion. Doug, just so, for my clarification, so I understand, it's not legally appropriate to talk about the fascia of the building at this time. Is it appropriate to send it back to planning and ask them to look at that? Or are you saying we're too long in the process? Can you help me understand what you were saying?
Well, I'll let Russ address going back to the Planning Commission, but I guess when you, if the idea is to have a set of design standards for this city, I think that we have the cart before the horse if we do an ad hoc condition on a planning matter where, other than the height right now, the location, the setback, and those sorts of planning matters that we have on the books, we can talk about those and consider those. The Planning Commission can, as can the governing body, when it's determining whether to approve a planning matter, special use, zone change. Again, you can ask about hours of operation, but getting into how the business operates is really not a planning matter.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. This will be a roll call vote. And do I vote on that? No? Okay, go ahead.
Charlie Davidson,
Aye.
George Glover,
Aye.
Ben Salcetta,
Aye.
Kyle Nordick,
Aye.
Tom Jones,
Aye.
George Capps, Brandy Bailey,
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Motion passes 7-0. Go to item 7.
Again, Russ Avey, Interim Zoning Administrator. This is an amendment to a special use permit approved by the council last summer, just over here at the northwest corner of 61st and Hydraulic. It's the property that's undeveloped on the west side of the shopping center that includes the donut shop, or the former donut shop. It was a special use for the interior storage of personal collection of vehicles, somewhat of a unique use, which is why we did it as a special use permit there in the C1 zoning district. Last summer, there were 2 residents that showed up to speak on the item. One was wanting to further enhance the commercial development of the area. And the second was concerned with what development on this particular undeveloped tract would mean to her property from a drainage standpoint. Neither one of those 2 property owners were at the Planning Commission meeting for this amendment. The amendment centers around the height of the screening fence along the west property line. Planning Commission recommend approval of a 8-foot tall screening fence, and the City Council took that recommendation during its approval. The applicant has since requested that the height of the screening fence be 6 feet. Staff was comfortable with, as well as on this particular amendment, with that height of 6 feet. And the applicant is also here on this special use, and I will stand for any questions that the council may have.
Brandy.
During the original planning commission meeting where they recommended an 8-foot fence, do you know why it was recommended 8 foot versus that 6 foot?
I truly don't. It happened right at the end, post public hearing. The public hearing had closed, and the Planning Commission was discussing it amongst themselves. Typically, I will write a condition that a screening fence be 6 to 8 feet in height, leaving that as the at the developer's behest as to determine which one. Anything over 8 feet typically requires an engineering set of plans to build that fence. So 6 to 8 feet is a very, very common height range for screening, 6 foot being obviously the most ubiquitous height standard. So planning staff really did not request 8 feet. It was a single planning commissioner at the end of a decently long meeting and just chose to recommend 8 feet. The applicant's agent was not in attendance to argue that at the time, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ben?
I'd go ahead and make a motion to approve the special use as presented.
Jim?
And I'll second that, just for discussion and comment that whether it's 6 or 8 feet, I'm going to go with what the neighbors want, what our applicant wants. One person will love having the view blocked, and the next person will hate having it blocked. So it's subjective to the site. So
Perhaps I should have added to my answer, neither one of the two neighbors requested the 8 feet. Screening was not either one of their issues.
fair enough. So my motion, I second as proposed.
Okay. Not seeing any more discussion. Madam Clerk, you'll call the roll.
Charlie Davidson,
Aye.
George Glover,
Aye.
Ben Sosetta,
Aye.
Kyle Nordick,
Aye.
Tom Jones.
Aye.
George Capps, Brandy Bailey,
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Okay, we'll go back to item 6.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sarah Steele was not able to make it tonight. This is discuss and consider economic incentive for Whiskey Tango Properties LLC. Whiskey Tango Properties LLC has made application for property tax exemption under economic development purposes with the intent of building and equipping a new facility located at 85th Street, just west of Hydraulic Avenue, across from NIAR. It is estimated that 12 new full-time employees with a salary significantly above the county's average wage will be employed. They have completed the required tax abatement cost-benefit analysis, and based on 100% abatement, that projects a positive cost-benefit ratio of 1.3. Resolution 870-2013 established Park City's incentive policy, which outlines levels of percentages of incentives exemptions based on capital investment, job creation, and export sales outside the state of Kansas. Pursuant to the city's policy, Whiskey Tango Property qualifies, and there's a little correction to the staff agenda as some of the facts and figures have come in just within the last couple days. Under capital investments, it was originally proposed that it would be $2.5 million for the original building, but the cost-benefit analysis also included a phase 2 for $750,000 that will be completed approximately within the first 2 years. That should be, according to Sarah Steele, included in the capital investment. So with it 3.25, that qualifies for a 40% exemption. 12 new full-time employees is 20.5%. And then export sales, the applicant has provided sales receipts for the last 2 years, and 100% of their business has been exported outside the state of Kansas for the past 2 years. And so that's 1% for every 2% of export sales. So that itself qualifies for 50%. Combine them all together, they're exceed 100%. Given a capital investment of 3.25, or excuse me, at the old figures of 2.4 million, a 10-year projection of all the property taxes for all the entities is $904,830. Absent any administrative and issuance cost of the IRBs. As far as the physical impact, the property is currently assessed as agricultural as part of a larger tract with an appraised value of $11,060. The assessed value is $3,318, and the annual property taxes are $526.90. This requires a public hearing, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll open the hearing at 7:38. Is there anybody that wishes to speak on this item? Jeopardy music. Okay, seeing nobody, we'll close the hearing at 7:39. Okay, I would entertain a motion. Brandy,
I have a question.
go ahead.
So with your new figures, it would make the total exemption be 100% versus 90.5%?
That is correct, ma'am.
Okay, and do you have the new numbers for the abatement, what it equates to?
approximately $1.21 million over a 10-year time period. That's predicated on an assessed or an appraised value of 3.25 at the completion of Phase 2, 25% assessed for commercial property at the current mill rate other than the school board.
Anything else, Brandy?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Tom?
I was going to make a motion if there's no other discussion. I don't know if there is or not. Anyway, I'd move to approve Resolution 1114-2022, a resolution of governing body of the City of Park City, Kansas, determining the advisability and issuing taxable revenue bonds, industrial revenue bonds for the purpose of financing and acquisitioning, construction and equipping a commercial facility to be located in the city and authorizing execution of related documents.
Thank you, Tom. Jim?
I would second the motion.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, now we'll skip around and go to item 9. My math is right. Okay, discuss and consider property casualty and workers' compensation insurance renewal. Marlo.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The city's insurance policies will expire on April 1st, 2022. The quote for the upcoming year is $197,720. This is a 6.18% increase from the 2021 quote. The increase is due to inflation and an increase in valuations of our city's buildings. The city receives an annual dividend from EMC each year in June. The average dividend paid to the city for the last 3 years has been $29,059.94. Our fiscal impact is an increase of 6.18% in cost over the last year. Staff recommends approval. Do you have any questions?
Brandy.
So this is an increase of 6.18%. When we did our budget, what did we budget for an increase? Do you recall?
No, ma'am, I do not. Dee's not here tonight.
And then, is this just a continuation of who we currently have, or did we go out for other people?
We didn't go out this year. We went out last year. So we usually go out every 3 years.
Okay.
Thank you. Ben?
That answered my question.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion. Jim?
I would move to approve the proposal from Employers Mutual Casualty Insurance Company, correct myself, Employers Mutual Casualty Company for $197,720 effective April 1st, 2022.
Thank you, Jim. Charlie?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 10, consider subscription renewal agreement with Tyler Technologies. And Sean.
Yes, sir. Last year, Tyler Technologies changed their Encode software subscription from a 5-year agreement to an amendment of the original March 2, 2011 contract, providing for 1-year terms that would allow auto renewal at the then current rate unless the client canceled. They indicated that they were also providing the city with an unlimited number of users, and last year's Park City's renewal fee was $21,370. That was approved by council last January. In October of last year, they indicated that they erroneously failed to include the auto renewal verbiage and would provide the wording in a 2022 amendment. They also did not include or provide for unlimited number of users, but after months of requesting the change of the wording, the proposed amendment, it was initially provided in October. They finally have agreed to move forward with the version that is on the agenda. The renewal fee for this year commencing March 1st, 2022 is $22,439 and represents a 5% increase over last year.
Kyle?
Sean, I got two questions for you. First, will this renewal carry us over until we get our new ERP system, or do you foresee us actually renewing again 2023 to 2024?
The expectation is that the new ERP system will be in place before this needs to renew next year.
Awesome. And so, follow-up question to that, just with all the issues, customer service-wise with Encode and Tyler, is staff prepared to look into deeming Tyler as a non-responsible bidder when it comes to bidding for the ERP software solution? And that may be answered at a later date. That's fine.
I would prefer to put that off. Thank you.
That's fine. That's
Thank
all
you,
I have.
Kyle. Kyle?
All right, with that, I'll move to make a motion to approve the amendment to the March 2nd, 2011 contract with Tyler Technologies, which governs the city's access to the software and services in the amount of $22,439 for a term commencing on March 1st, 2022 and expiring on February 28th, 2023, with subsequent annual automatic renewals at the then current rates.
Ben?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, item 11, consider annual review of water and sewer rates.
Yes, sir. Ordinance 1087, 2020 states that the governing body shall conduct an annual review of the financial condition of the city's water and sewer utilities on or before March 31st each year to evaluate the need for any adjustments to the current water or sewer charges. As we know, last year, 2 years ago, we did not do anything because of COVID. Last year, council again elected not to at that time, and we had recently contracted with Wilson and Company to do a rate study and a documentation modeling of the overall water and sewer distribution program. Wilson and Company, there's a meeting scheduled here on April 5th to receive the results of that study, and it is staff's recommendation, rather than doing anything at this time, to wait until after that meeting to come forward with any recommendation.
Okay. Ben?
So when you say on April 5th, they're planning to give us the study results,
Yes, sir.
are you meaning to talk, they're planning to come to a council meeting and address this, or are you talking about they're doing it to staff, or what?
On April 5th, there's a recommendation to have a special meeting for council to discuss both the water and sewer distribution system study by Wilson and Company, as well as the drainage channelization improvement study. Both studies will be complete, ready to present to council.
Okay, so, because the April 5th isn't on the agenda as far as calling for a special meeting, but
That is correct,
that's
sir.
something, okay, perfect. I just want to make sure I understood that, that was it. That
Yes,
sounds
sir.
good. I don't know if anybody else has anything, so.
Tom?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is something that we typically do in February, isn't it? So, or is it March timeframe? I know we've got a set period every year that we're supposed to do it.
Usually, the last 2 years, it has always been during a March meeting, just because we
I
know
couldn't
that there's that March 31st deadline. And like I said, if we go back to 2020,
Right. Well, this is.
the end of March,
This was self-imposed several years ago that we do this every year just to make sure we're in
Yes, sir.
line. So I want to make sure that we're not alienating anything by moving that date. I don't think we are, but I'm just asking. Okay.
no, sir.
All right.
Jim?
I don't have any other questions, so I would move to approve no increase in the water and sewer base rates and usage fees at this time, but to address rates again after receiving the results of the rate study.
Charlie?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. There's no further comments pending. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 12, discuss and consider changing the street names. Sean?
Yes, sir. Wild West Drive, Hopalong Cassidy Circle, and Roy Rogers Circle have only one business currently, which was the former Motel 6, And now that the motel has been obtained by the Wyandotte Nation, staff is proposing changing the names of the streets to Wyandotte Way, Turtle Court, and Deer Court. There is no financial or fiscal aspect to it, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Sean. Ben?
Yeah, I think it'd be great to get rid of these names that are existing there and wipe that part off of our storied history as a city. So I would move to approve the street names as mentioned previously, to change them to Wyandotte Way, Turtle Court, and Deer Court.
And if I may, one other, we originally, when we drafted this up, said that there was only one business, but we forgot about the fire department. We have already checked with the fire department, and they were very happy with the idea as well.
Usually the biggest mix-up is with 911 calls, and the fire department doesn't have a ton of 911 calls to call in. So, and the actual casino is on Jackpot Way, so.
Yes.
So it was good. It was a prime time to do it. George?
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, George. All right, I have no further comments pending. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 13, discuss and consider approving a resolution determining the advisability of water distribution improvements for Bar Estates Addition. Sean?
Yes, sir. Items number 13 and 14 are related. The first one is updating the petition. Petitions for water distribution, sanitary sewer, and paving improvements were filed with the city clerk and approved back by council in June of last year. All were signed by the owners of records of more than one-half of the area liable for the assessment for the proposed improvements, and therefore the request was approved without notice and hearing as required by KSA 12-6A01. A bid opening was conducted on March 17th, whereas the lowest bid exceeded the engineer's estimate, and therefore the developer has chosen to repetition and amend the cost of the work to be completed. And this is only affecting the water side of the house. The original petition was for $234,000. The amended petition is for $280,000. The description of the improvements, the improvement district, the method of assessment, and the apportionment between the cost to the improvement district and the city all remain the same. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Sean. Would entertain a motion.
I move to accept the amended petition and approve Resolution 1115-2022, a resolution determining the advisability of making certain internal improvements in the city of Park City, Kansas, making certain findings with respect thereto, and authorizing and providing for making of the improvements in accordance with such findings.
Thank you, Brandy. Kyle?
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Move to item 14, discuss and consider approval of bid from Meese Construction for water and sanitary sewer improvements for Bar Estates Addition. Sean?
Yes, sir. Bar Estates is located on 53rd Street between Hydraulic and Hillside. Garver LLC, on behalf of the developer, presented petitions for water and sanitary and sewer improvements in June, approved by the council. Again, the bid opening was conducted on the 17th. We had a total of 6 companies submit bids. Meese Construction submitted the lowest bid of $342,110.50, which the combined amount overall was well below the engineer's estimate of $493,646.50. They're broken out individually as far as how much water and sanitary below. Attached in your packet are copies of the bid tabulation and the contract with Meese. It is budgeted under capital improvements projects, and staff recommends approval and authorizing the mayor to execute a contract.
Kyle?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank staff for including that engineer's estimate and putting together what seemed to be a pretty good solicitation package if you ended up getting 6 bids in on that, so that's pretty exciting. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I also like when you see the difference in the high to the low is quite a difference, so that's pretty amazing. Thank you, Sean, or Charlie.
I'll make a motion to approve the bid tabulation and authorize the mayor to finalize and execute a contract with Meese Construction in an amount not to exceed $342,110.50 to be paid out of the Capital Projects Fund.
Thank you, Charlie. Jim?
And I'd second that.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, item 15, discuss, consider approval of a quote with JCI Industries Incorporated for main lift station submersible pumps. Simon.
So back on February 28th, one of the two submersible pumps at the main lift station failed. It locked up, and we had to insert the secondary pump, which we have a VFD down right now, into that well to try to get that lift station going again. We called JCI, we pulled the pump out. They're a sole source provider for the flight pumps, and they provided us an estimate for that repair. I'm sorry, I didn't bring that quote up here with me, but the replacement pump itself is $70,000. The rebuild is substantially lower. So what I'm asking for is to approve the quote with JCI to repair that pump. $29,813. I'll stand for questions.
Kyle.
Hey, Simon, I got a couple of questions for you here. One, what is the standard life of these pumps, and how does that compare to the life expectancy we can see with rebuilding this pump?
So the life expectancy, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years usually. It's hard to say. So that main lift station was constructed in 2008. There's two pumps in it. One of the pumps is original to the station. This flight pump was actually a replacement for one of the original pumps that failed at some time during the past. I'm not too sure how long ago. But so there's a lot of variables. You got to remember our trash screen doesn't work. So we're getting a lot of trash in those pumps right now. Hopefully we'll have that fixed in the next couple months. But we've already approved the contract to have that done. So we're just waiting on the parts to come in.
Okay. So typically we can say 10 years, and then with a rebuild pump, it's probably equatable to the same thing?
Yeah, I would guess 10 years, yeah.
All right, so other than the unforeseen repair here and the repair that we had previously approved, is there any other things that council should know about that are coming down the pipeline with that main lift station?
Yeah, so the main lift station, one of our VFDs blew up, essentially, so we're running on one VFD. So we could really only run one pump at a time. If we lose that other pump, then we have the ability to bypass for a short time, but not very long, a few days. So we want to try to keep what we got going until we figure out what we need to do about the VFD, because we're trying to research our options. The VFDs right now are in a building that is the old wet well for the plant itself, and it has a lot of humidity. The bottom of it's full of water. We can't control the temperature, and that's really the reason that VFD blew up, is because it got too hot over the last summer. So we're looking at other options of maybe relocating it to the outside, to the actual lift station, kind of like we did on the 53rd Street lift station. And we're trying to see what the most cost-effective means of doing that is with providing a reliable VFD that's going to last the city many years.
Okay. And then the very last thing, just as a housekeeping item, when we bring things forward for sole source, if you can get a sole source letter from either the distributor or the provider of the part for our retention records, that'd be much appreciated.
Motion?
That's all I got. Yeah, I'll make a motion if there's nothing else, to approve the quote with JCI Industries in the amount of $29,813 to be paid out of the utility fund sewer department.
Thank you. Ben?
Yeah, I have a second for discussion here, just real quick.
Go ahead, Ben.
And I didn't hear well, so I'm gonna say VFD, is that right?
Yeah, it's a variable frequency drive.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So, I know we're kind of going off of,
You didn't know that?
no, I didn't know that. I
thought everyone knew that.
I was gonna order me one the other day on Amazon, but I thought, man, I need to research that a little bit more before. You're talking about, now my brain is on Amazon orders. Talking about the fact one's down already, we got one going, still working, but the conditions for that are not favorable as a whole. Researching, I guess part of my where would be is when you talk research versus solution or an answer, some sort of answer, what time frame do you think you're thinking? Because roughly. I'm not asking for, April 3rd, I'm just in general.
So I reached out to Wilson because they did the design on the 53rd Street lift station, and we're trying to go with the same kind of controllers and everything that we have there because it's new, it works, we can integrate that main lift station hardware with what we're running out there, and in the future, as we update our lift stations, we could get everything working together a little bit more better, I guess. What I asked for them was what their cost is going to be to do this design out there, and I'm still waiting on that number for you guys right now, so we could get that design process.
Because I always like more options when available, but I don't want to get us into a spot where it's taken too long to get back from whatever company X or Y or whatever, and then we end up with the second acronym failing, and then we're really in a pinch.
So we could get a VFD put in. I did receive a quote to replace that VFD from JCI to put it back where it is in kind of the same conditions it is, and it's right around $18,000. And I know the building has to go, so my intention is next year's budget to have that building removed, and having those VFDs go ahead and relocating, it'll save us essentially $18,000 plus, in a short-term time period.
Cool, TTYL.
Charlie, did you have something?
No, I withdraw. I had the same question that Ben had. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no more comments. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Move to item 16, discuss and consider approving a contract with Circle C Paving for Mclean Park project. Simon.
So during the February 22nd city council meeting, there was 3 options that are presented to you for the 2022 road improvement plan. One of the selected options was to perform a chip seal and fog seal in the Mclean Park. We created the bid documents and sent them to local contractors. One bid was received from Circle C Paving for the lump sum of $96,368. That is below my estimate of $121,474.
Simon, I just wanted to know, I'm not the expert on it whatsoever, so is Circle C the only person in town that does this chip seal kind of work?
They're the only local contractor. We have Vance Brothers, I think they're out of the KC area that do that. But as far as that kind of work, as far as I know, those are the only 2 that I know in this area that do any kind of work.
Thank you.
Charlie.
Simon, 2 questions. Have you used Circle C Paving before?
Yes.
And any problems with them in the past?
No, last year during our road improvement plan, we did a slurry seal and some kind of a sand seal with the Vance Brothers, and in 100% honesty, I wasn't too happy with the work that was performed. I don't think it's lasting as good as what the city hoped it would. But the Circle C's done work before, and they've done a lot of work with Sedgwick County as well. And it seems like their work is pretty good.
And second question, time frame on this, because I know we just, last meeting, we talked about baseball, and I know there's got the BMX park going.
Right.
Be able to work around some of that?
We're looking at those. We have other events such as the Easter egg hunt, the Russian limb pickup, and all that different stuff, and we're trying to schedule that around those. I'm not exactly sure what date, but I'll make sure that you guys have the information, the public has that information as soon as I get it.
Thank you.
I believe that agreement said they would do it within 30 days.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah, but we still want to work around.
Yeah.
So probably, 30 days from probably when we decide we want to get started. Thank you. Want to make a motion, Charlie?
Yeah, I move to approve and authorize the mayor to finalize and execute a contract with Circle C Paving in an amount not to exceed $96,368 to be paid out of the Special Streets and Highway Fund.
Thank you, Charlie. Tom?
I had another question. I'll go ahead and second it so I can answer it.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The process we're going to put in the park, is that what was done on Irving?
No, so that was some kind of micro or sand seal or something they did. So I spec'd this out, and if you look at I'd be happy to share the bid packet with you, but we actually have specifications as 3/8 Moline rock with a certain type of binder in it, and then it has a fog seal over the top of all that once that's done.
Okay. So we're going to end up with a sealed top
Oh, it's gonna be far better than what we ended up with
And
last year.
no potholes left and crazing and stuff that's coming through?
So the street department has been working hard on fixing those potholes right now in the park. We actually just redid the valley gutter by the baseball field. And everything's turning out pretty good. We have to do a little bit of reworking on the valley gutter. Somebody rode their bicycle through it, but no big deal. But it's far better than what it was. Used to when you drive into the park off of hydraulic, you would hit your bumper on that valley gutter, and you shouldn't have that problem anymore. I hope to have that road back opened up probably Wednesday.
Okay, I'm disappointed on Irving. I hope we're not gonna buy into the same thing, so that's where I'm coming from.
A lot better of a process, for sure.
And while Tom brings that up, I think that he's got a good point with something. As we're starting to do workshops again, I'd like at some time at one of our workshops to have kind of a presentation to the council so we know like what a slurry seal, what a fog seal, what all this stuff is. Because I know like last year, we've done some projects, I'll just think up in the northeast part of the city where, I mean, some of them, they completely tore it out, put a new base, new everything, and we just, some of that we don't know what that is. We'll hear that we're gonna redo a street and then it just has a kind of a black seal over it. So something like that maybe that you could help educate us on some of that, so. We can learn some acronyms and things like that.
Sure.
Yeah. Ben?
Yeah. Two questions, well, one question, one statement. First question, in all of it that happened a couple weeks ago, we were talking about this initially, the bid for the 61st and Jacksonville, that's already been approved and is correct?
No, that's not. So I hope to have that at the next council meeting. We had a little bit of issue developing the specifications on that.
Oh, that's right, we're waiting on that.
So we're working on that right now with Andel and the Oxcon system to get those specifications nailed down.
Okay, perfect. And so I am going to vote in favor of this. I think it's important whenever we put something, take the time to send something out to bid, that once we've gone through that process, that is supported, whether we agree with the initial plan or not. I am very much in favor of supporting our infrastructure and building our infrastructure out and maintaining and moving forward with that. I will reiterate, I am very much against spending $100,000, $200,000, $50,000 shooting from the hip in the middle of a meeting. And that's my opposition initially to this. And so I hope moving forward, when we talk about spending money unbudgeted, that we look through and really address the process of how we do that, so that first off, the public is engaged. For second off, we know that, if we come back and talk to staff, and staff has the understanding that they really have more money to spend and to apply in other areas, that they're giving us the best information. And so, again, while I necessarily did not approve or was not in favor of the initial spending, I say all that to say I will vote in favor of this. That's it.
Thank you, Ben. Any further comments? Seeing none pending, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 17, discuss and consider approving a contract with McCullough Excavation for inserter valves at 61st Street project at Newcastle. Simon.
So back in June of 2021, council approved a change order with Meese Construction to relocate and make improvements to certain water lines adjacent to and in support of the Newcastle Street realignment. Public Works staff, we have attempted multiple times to isolate the water line without success. To facilitate the isolation of Newcastle Street for relocation, 2 inserter valves will need to be installed. A request for bids was created. It was sent out to local contractors as well as published within the Kansas Construction News. 2 bids were received, with McCullough being the low bidder at $41,650.
Thank you. George Glover.
Yeah, McCullough, do you know anything about McCullough, Simon, as far as working with them?
Yeah, they've done quite a bit of water line and relocation and stuff for the city in the past.
They do pretty good work?
Yes, sir.
You're okay with the work?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Want to make a motion, George?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to execute a contract with McCullough Excavation in the amount not to exceed $41,650 to be paid out of the Capital Projects Fund.
Thank you, George. Kyle?
Yeah, I'll second that motion pending discussion. Now I forgot. Meese, if they're originally contracted to do the moving of the water line, do we reach out to them to see if they just wanted to throw on and do a contract amendment and do the 2 insert valves to get work started?
Yeah, I mean, this was presented to me, but they opted not to bid on it. They don't really do the inserter valve work. I don't know that they're doing the inserter valve. They contract that stuff out usually.
Okay,
So,
fair enough. That's all I had.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
thank you.
Okay, next, we move the item off of the consent agenda, which was approved resolution 1113-2022 to support a state-owned and operated mental health hospital in Sedgwick County, Kansas region. And I'll tell you where this started at the SCAC meeting earlier in the month. There was quite an extensive discussion from county commissioners and some of the other local mayors and council members at the meeting that they're trying to draw some support through the state legislators and senators for a statewide mental health hospital in this region, that there's a very strong need for it. They also gave numbers of how many are in the county jail pending trial that are more mental health inmates. So the more we discussed it, it is kind of late in the session to bring something like this, but we did feel like it was important to push forward as much as we can. So it was suggested that we get a resolution from each city in Sedgwick County in support of it, just to give us a little bit more standing with state legislators. So that's what got this started. Ben?
Yeah, unfortunately, mental health has been something that has been long overlooked within communities, within the public sector, and has obviously played had an enormous impact on our policing. And so focusing the need that we have within our state, and specifically within our county even, for the need for a mental health facility is important that we sign on and be a part of. One, it helps people get the treatment or have access to the treatment that they need. Two, it helps keep our community safer as our police officers get some additional resources as well within their toolbox, if you will. And so I think it's very important. I thank you, Mayor, and those that were at SCAC, Tom and George, but for having this discussion. I think it's important we join our cities here in our county in doing so. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve Resolution 1113-2022 to support a state-owned and operated mental health hospital in Sedgwick County, in the Sedgwick County, Kansas region.
Okay, and if you guys were interested in seeing what the actual resolution says, it is there in the consent agenda that you can read through. It's pretty long, but I think it's a great idea. So, Charlie.
Yeah, I will second, just make a comment that I piggyback what Ben said. I think mental health services has been increasing. The lack of services has been decreasing, but the need for the service has been increasing, I should say. So when I saw that, I'm very excited about that. I'm sure we're very early. They probably don't have a time frame on that. I mean, we're talking several years before something's actually operational, I would assume. Is that correct? But
yes.
I appreciate you bringing that. I think it's great that Park City supports something like this in our county, but having, Wichita be the largest, or largest city in the state, I think it's great.
And just for clarification too, the push is not for a Sedgwick County operated or owned mental health facility. It's a state-owned in the Sedgwick County region. That's very important that we make that differentiation.
Yeah.
So
anyway, I second in full support of that.
Thank you. Tom?
I was going to say, this is something that comes up regularly at SCAC, REAP meetings, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council meetings. The sheriff, the police chief, and the DA are all in favor of this. They've been pushing for it. They've been lobbying in Topeka. So that's why we're saying an area. It doesn't have to be in Wichita. Right now, there's 2 places in the state we can take people. They're both full, so we have to put them in a hospital or put them in jail until they can get in or release them. We're treating a lot of people, spending a lot of money in hospitals, getting them back on their meds. Let them out of the hospital because we don't have anywhere in the jail to put them, and 2 months later, they're back in the hospital, and we're reinvesting money in those guys, and this would help significantly in this area. So it's been an ongoing process for several years, and we're finally getting lined up and trying to get the legislature to help us with it, so.
Thank you, Tom. George Glover.
Yeah, and someone who's worked in the mental health field a long time, there's always been a need for services at a state level. You know, with COVID and pandemic issues, dealing with suicide, depression, anxiety, we're seeing an increase in suicides. Just the accessibility, especially for people maybe low income, or maybe somebody who doesn't have insurance. As far as accessibility, I think it's great that it's local. It's going to be in Wichita. I've seen in years past, they had to go to Topeka State Hospital. So I think it's great it's local, that we can, it is the largest city in Kansas, that people can access these services here, and I think that's important for our residents. Thank you.
Ben.
Yeah, to the point of lobbying and such like that, is there a day set? I know that I was thinking there was, as far as like local government day on the Hill, that is done through the league that you're aware of? No, okay. I mean, I would encourage us as the council to contact our state representative and our state senator and those within Sedgwick County. I mean, those are all accessible phone numbers or emails, and make sure that we're making a very concerted effort behind them. I mean, I think the more that we get involved and engaged in this, I think is going to be important. And I mean, we all know our state reps just right over here. I'll give you his address if you want to go knock his door on the weekends. But I think it's important that all of us up here, and then of course citizens listening, make sure that we make a concerted effort to push this forward.
Thank you. Brandy.
Just out of curiosity, for those of you that went to SCAC, when they talk about the state-owned and operated mental hospital, is it specifically more for adults?
Not necessarily.
Okay, because I mean, I think it's important that we start addressing mental health with children.
Definitely.
Because that's where a lot of our issues are, and if we can prevent it at the early age, then we're not getting into, so many at the jails and.
And it's more of a hospital setting rather than like a jail or correction setting, so, yes, I mean, I would say there's
Include
a need
children.
in every area, yeah.
Okay.
Good point, Randy, thank you. Tom?
I'd just like to make a comment to Ben that we've met with the legislatures, the locals, in January in Derby. They're all aware of it, so.
Stay on it.
Yeah.
Very good, good discussion, good cause. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Move to governing body reports. Start with Jim.
First off, Whiskey Tango Properties, thank you for coming to town and choosing us. I'm happy to have you here, and everybody knows I really like the businesses that come to town, and the employees you bring, and that makes our city better and keeps it growing and leads to housing and more people at our restaurants and changes our demographics and improves our demographics, which is what we need to continue to attract bigger and bigger names. So thank you. And not related to yours, because your building sounds wonderful, and I've seen an awful lot of nice metal buildings, and 75 feet of windows is no small statement. But I'd be entertain a discussion in the future on a design standard as the city continues to grow. I mean, we face I-35. Everybody that drives through here, I-135. Everybody that drives through here, sees Park City from the highway, and it doesn't have to be improved buildings. It can be something as simple as landscaping. And
It's in process.
okay, so I'd love to hear that, and I'd love to hear pros and cons. Obviously, that adds construction cost to projects.
Right.
So, thank you, that's all I had.
Randy?
Jim kind of took what I had, was the
Sorry.
design standards. We've talked about it for years, about we need to have some standards. I'd really like to see us get serious and come up with design standards as the city's growing.
It's in process. I've met with Sean and Russ, and we're coming up with some stuff to bring back to the council. It'll be something that we work on in a workshop as well, that we can kind of come to an agreement and something that we could at least bring in here to get started with, but yes.
That's all I had. No.
Oh,
I was gonna say, we were talking about sewer earlier, and I questioned at the time when we put the speed control new computing data into that old house, why we weren't doing it into a new house, because it was nasty then. That was like 12 years ago. And then, so I'm glad to hear we're looking at replacing that building. The other thing is that that pump that he's talking about is larger than a Volkswagen Beetle. So just to give you a size of the motor, it's pretty good size, so. I don't have anything else.
very good. Kyle?
I don't have anything.
Ben?
I'm excited, just as Jim mentioned, to have Whiskey Tango Properties coming in, and good to see what they're planning to do there as well. Just a reminder from item number 7 there about what Mr. Aldridge is planning to do there. It's good to see some changes there and some differences, different types of businesses and such coming into the community, and excited about Domino's. I'm still excited about that announcement. So looking forward to what Park City has moving forward. That's it.
George Glover?
Yeah, I appreciate the residents who came to speak tonight at Public Forum. I think that it's a good way to see how we're doing as a city and what some of the needs or complaints that people have, and to just come openly and just speak your mind. Let us know what's going on and how we can try to help you. Also, I want to wish my wife a happy birthday this week. Thank you.
Charlie?
I just want to piggyback Randy and Jim on the design.
It's in process.
Right, I know it's in process, but I had that as a note. I was excited. I had something. They stole my thunder, but anyway, also want to welcome to spring, even though it doesn't feel like it. I'm definitely looking for warmer weather, so that's all I got.
Okay. Trying to think, I had something I was gonna have Sean remind us of that we were working on, but I'll think of it later on the way home, I'm sure. So I guess I would entertain a non-debatable motion to adjourn. Ben?
Yeah, in making this here, I just want to also be cognizant of what Mary brought as far as our sidewalks and make sure that's something that we do get addressed. Is that something that's been brought up multiple times? So I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. We have a motion, and Tom?
I'm gonna second it.
We have a motion and a second. And no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. We're adjourned. We have a
Nothing else to do?